Welcome back. Breaking news overnight. Israel launching a limited ground operation into Lebanon, escalating the fight against the Iranian-backed Hezbollah terrorist group. The Israeli military is targeting a number of villages in the southern part of the country near the Israeli-Lebanese border. No word on how long this operation will last, but Hezbollah's acting leader says it's ready for ground engagement, vowing to continue battling Israel. Here's President Biden ahead of Israel's latest incursion. Watch.
Well, just the fact that Israel may be now launching a limited operation into Lebanon. Are you aware of that? Are you comfortable with their plans?
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now.
Ceasefire now is what this president is still calling for. The Pentagon also announced plans to send more U.S. troops to the Middle East to bolster security in the region and defend Israel if needed. Joining me now is Florida Congresswoman Maria Salazar, member of the House Foreign Affairs and Small Business Committees. Congresswoman, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. What is your reaction to these last 3 weeks where Israel seems to have had the upper hand against these terrorists?
Well, thank God they do, and thank you for the opportunity. And, well, first and foremost, Israel has the right to defend itself. I mean, just think about someone invading your house. You're going to do something in order to protect your property. And number two, once again, and I just wanted to share this with you, by sitting in Congress and being part of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Maria, you feel the weakness coming from this administration. I'm one of the most bipartisan members in Congress, but I got to tell you that the message that Biden has been sending from the very beginning, starting with Ukraine and now a year ago with Israel, is that, hey, the thugs can play and we, the big boy, we're sleeping at the wheel. And that's exactly what he just said right now. We got to do a ceasefire. Yeah, but under what conditions? So it's single-handedly responsibility from the Biden administration what's happening in Israel, what's happening in the Middle East, and Israel being at the forefront.
Yeah,
Iran.
So much so that I don't think Israel is sharing information with the United States any longer. I mean, here they are in this last 3 weeks, really having a major impact. But what you just said, it's the same sentiment that the former director of national intelligence had when I spoke with him on Sunday. Here's John Ratcliffe with me Sunday. Watch.
It's no secret that that the Democrats want to obtain a ceasefire in advance of the presidential election coming up to help Kamala Harris, and in so doing, they're really willing to put politics above our national security. And it is troubling, Maria, because how far are they willing to go? Well, as you point out, they're willing to ignore acts of war. Perhaps most importantly, when they engage in the act of war of firing through its Houthi-controlled rebels ballistic missiles at 3 U.S. warships, and there had been no actions and no consequences to those acts of war by Iran, it unfortunately tells you how far the Democrats are willing to go to stop Donald Trump. And, I think larger at play here, Maria, is not just this short-term election, but that it really reveals the failed strategy of the Democrats over the last 10 years in dealing with Iran. The famous Obama doctrine, which was that, look, we can deter Iran diplomatically and it won't come at the expense of Israel. Well, Barack Obama was wrong.
So what do you think about that? I mean, look, we've actually had attacks from some of these terrorist groups on our own ships, and we have not seen any response. I mean, look, you have Iran publicly threatening Donald Trump. You have Iran hacking into his campaign. That's an act of war. There have been no responses from this administration.
Well, I repeat to you, is the weakness that they're telegraphing. They're saying loudly, we're not going to do anything if you want to destroy half of the country. But it's not only Iran. Look, Iran is in Venezuela, which is behind our backs. It's the $16 billion. We got to remember, Maria, that the $16 billion that last year this administration gave to Iran is only to be used in the machinery of terror. I mean, Hezbollah and Hamas, they're just puppets. If they would not have Iran. But look, remember, just let's go back 4 years ago. And I always say, regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, his policies worked. Where is Soleimani? They took him out in Iraq. Remember ISIS? I remember that, 4 years ago, those people that would send us footage or videos chopping people's heads off in the middle of the desert? What happened with them? They're gone because we had a leader at the White House. The world is a rough place. And you have the thugs. You have Maduro in Venezuela. You have Xi in China. You have Russia. And now you have Iran. It's simple. Wrong
Maria,
message.
I've got to get your take from your congressional standpoint on what's going on with illegal immigration. I mean, this new Immigration and Customs Enforcement data reveals that as of July this year, there were more than 425,000 illegal migrants, convicted criminals, and they were released into the United States. They're living outside of ICE detention. More than 13,000 of those people were convicted of murder. 15,000 of those people were convicted of sexual assault. They're named on the non-detained docket, meaning they are not prioritized for detention. They are in jail or in prison, or ICE does not know where they are. The Department of Homeland Security claims the data goes back 4 decades and is being misinterpreted. That's what White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said, and she repeated the claim yesterday. Watch this.
It's important to correct the record here. First of all, the false representation of the data ICE shared. So that was what we are seeing, false representation. I got to call that out. We got to call that out. And it's been fact-checked by some of your colleagues here, by multiple outlets that has been debunked on what has been falsely misrepresented.
Can you clarify what the misrepresentation is?
The numbers that is being put out about how many people are out has been falsely represented here. If we're going to report something, a data that's out there, we got to do it in a way that is not confusing the American people and certainly not lying.
Look, I haven't seen any corrections to anything, Congressman. I don't know what she's talking about. What we know is that 13,000 people were released into the country and they were convicted of murder. Okay, she says this data goes back 4 decades and that her administration has nothing to do with it. I have a hard time believing that a wide open border that has invited 10 million illegals into America in the last 4 years on her watch, on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's watch, has nothing to do with this administration. I'm sorry.
You know how embarrassed we feel? The Hispanic community, the largest minority in the country, by hearing what you're telling me. But that's the empirical evidence, and that's overwhelming. And of course, we, the Hispanics, do not want open borders. Like you said, it's 9 million people that have come in. El Tren de Aragua from Venezuela, jails from Nicaragua. God knows who came in. We don't want that. That gives us a very bad reputation, and I'm saying it clearly. Hispanics do not want open borders. Hispanics, that's why they're moving in masses to the Republican Party.
That's what I want to ask you about, because I'm really having a hard time understanding these polls, Congresswoman. I mean, Vice President Harris continues to lead former President Trump with Hispanic voters. These polls claim it's 54-40, according to a new CNBC Telemundo poll. However, this lead is significantly less than what Biden saw around this time back in 2020. He had a 36-point lead with Hispanics. Hillary Clinton had a 50-point lead over Trump in 2016, so we know how that went. But Hispanic voters are an important voting bloc. The economy, obviously, the number one issue. When asked who will deal with the economy and inflation better, Trump beats Harris every time. 45-41 is the last poll there, 46-37, respectively. Trump also leads Harris on immigration. So when you're looking at the actual issues that people vote on, Trump is in the lead, but a national poll still shows she's in the lead. Are you believing and buying into these polls?
I am believing that more and more each day, more Hispanics are coming into the GOP. And you know that I am the #1 advocate to welcome them. I've told the Trump camp and the Republican Party that I belong to in Congress, bring the Hispanics to the GOP because we are Republicans. We just do not know it. Because for 35 years, the Democrats have been playing political football, and they have been promising, specifically on the issue of immigration, to give some final solution to it. And they promise, and they promise, and they use us, and they use us, and they don't deliver. So right now is the border, immigration, is the economy, because no one wants to pay $10 for eggs while we were paying $2 4 years ago. And number 3, we're not socialists. We're not woke. This thing about talking to children about sex in kindergarten among the Hispanics, No. What is this gender, all this gender conversation?
Unbelievable.
No, we are pro-life, we're pro-family, and you are conservatives. So that's why we need, but we, the GOP, we need to send the message, Maria.
All right, Congresswoman, we've been watching your work for sure. Thanks very much for being here. Maria Salazar joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Stay with us.